Hi and welcome to the online learning session for What is School Readiness? During this session, I'll be talking about when to start school, the expectation on children and kindergarten teachers and how that's changed over time, what we know about literacy and engagement for young children, skills that will actually help your child once they get to school, the difference between being classroom ready and playground ready, and in that we'll touch on reading, writing, numbers, shapes and colours, and ways that you can enhance engagement in academic learning before school begins. And we'll finish off with sharing information about your child with the school and your child's teacher, and accessing additional support for your child. So let's get started. When should your child start school? This part of the session is only for the families with a child born between January and April. If your child's born outside of those months, the decision's kind of been made for you already. But if your child has been born between January and April, you've got a decision to make on whether to send your child to school a little bit early or a little bit later. Generally speaking, my recommendation is always to send your child to school just a little bit later. And there's a few reasons for that. The first one is early childhood is so short, you don't want to be shortening it any more than you absolutely have to. If you're sending your child to school a little bit early, you might find out that they're up to 16 months younger than the oldest person in their class. That's an extra 20% of their life that they haven't had yet. Imagine your child starting school with 20% more confidence, 20% more language, 20% more social understanding. It's quite a lot of time, and the skills and the life understanding that your child will be getting from an extra year in an early childhood setting or kindergarten is invaluable for the rest of their life. Again, generally speaking, you tend not to hear of families being disappointed or children running into academic or social trouble when they start school a little bit late, but sometimes you do hear it from children who started a little bit early. Of course, every child is individual and each case is unique. The best place to get information about this, if this does include you, is your kindergarten teacher. They know your child really well and they know what the expectations might be once they get to school. They might also have a really good understanding of the school that you're sending your child to or you plan to send your child to, and they can give you really good advice either way. The expectation on children and kindergarten teachers and kindergarten settings has changed quite dramatically over time. Once upon a time, school readiness used to be things like, can your child open their lunchbox without assistance? Can they eat a whole piece of fruit without it being cut up for them? And when they take off their jumper, can they find their own bag for it to go into? The term school readiness is being thrown around a lot at the moment. Sometimes what people are adding to school readiness isn't actually part of school readiness. It's actually a part of school. To me, school readiness is about social understanding, language, and confidence. These are all key elements in any kindergarten or early childhood setting. Your child's currently in a critical phase for their language development and their social understanding, meaning this is the best time for your child to be learning these things. The best place to learn that is in a kindergarten or early childhood setting. There's a reason kindergartens look and behave in a certain way. The skills that your children learn at kindergarten are the skills that your children need to learn at that particular time in their life. Whatever skills your child comes to school knowing or not knowing, your classroom teacher and the school will be able to cater for that. So if your child can write their name, that's wonderful. If your child knows a few letters, that's wonderful. If your child can read, that's wonderful. We take everyone and we'll teach everyone from wherever they're at. If they don't know some of the skills, they don't get left behind from day one in prep. And if your school's putting pressure on you or your kindergarten to be doing something like learning all your letters and sounds before you come to school, they're missing the point of early childhood. And they're missing the point of what their job is too. So what do we know about literacy, performance and engagement in young children? Studies show that children who have a favourite book by the time they're 5 are more likely to be advanced readers by the time they're 10. So introducing your child to a range of literature, that might be books, that might be a range of different authors, different styles of reading and literature. It could be an oral story, songs, theatre, and a range of different music styles has been proven to enhance reading and writing capabilities by the time children are 10. Also, there's no documented evidence that children who can read and write before they start school will be advanced readers and writers by the time they're 10 years old. The skills that will really help your children once they start school are problem solving and conflict resolution. And these skills stem from having a great understanding of language and social understanding as well. Children who can use their language to join play in appropriate ways, in socially appropriate ways, are always going to be far more ready for school than children who can't, or try and join play in inappropriate ways. And similarly, if something is happening with their friends in the yard that is not going so well for your child, do they have the language understanding and the social awareness and the confidence to stand up for themselves and look for solutions to the problems they have socially? Or in the very least, have the confidence to walk away and find a teacher. To me, those are the skills that'll help your child more for the very beginning of school. Everything else we can teach. So there's the idea of being classroom ready, and to me that is a confident child who believes they can learn anything. Someone who's curious, someone who's interested in the world, and someone who has great awareness of things around them. Whether you can read or write is irrelevant when you start school. Do you believe that you're a good learner? Do you believe that you can learn anything? Do you believe that you can achieve anything? And then there's playground readiness. So school looks a lot different to your kindergarten or early childhood setting, because in a kindergarten you might have about 22 or 23 children in a group, and you've got a whole yard to share with those 23 children. And at the same time you've got at least 2 people keeping an eye on everybody really closely, making sure everybody's cooperating, looking after each other. Once you get to school and it's playtime, you get sent out into the yard. You could be sharing a play space with up to 100 other children, and looking after those 100 other children is one teacher. You need to be able to take care of yourself. You need to be able to look after yourself, look after your friends, and negotiate conflicts and play. So things that you can do to enhance engagement in academic studies before children start school is really just about noticing. If you're looking at literacy, the best thing that you can be doing is reading regularly to your children. Also noticing literature, words, sounds, letters in everyday life. If every day you walk to school and you see a stop sign, point it out to your child. They'll start to realize that that word says stop and the letters in it include S, T, O, and P. That's not something they need to sit down and have a pencil in their hand for. They see that every day. They might realize that their name has an S in it as well, and they start making connections with letters and sounds. That all helps with their awareness and their understanding of how literature is related to each other and how they can then go and use it to share information with other people. Because that's why we have literature and literacy studies. We want to communicate something with somebody else, whether that's through speaking and listening, reading and writing, or viewing. It's all just about communication. And once children realize that they can then use that communication, it's a really powerful thing for them to learn about themselves. As far as numbers, shapes and colours go, numbers are a far more natural thing for people to learn. As long as there have been people, there have been numbers. There's been a need to count things, to measure things, to help understand the world. Again, it's about noticing everyday numbers, shapes and colours for your child and pointing them out to them as well. Something as simple as every time you walk upstairs, you can count the steps. That builds on their one-to-one correspondence and also helps them understand that maths is a part of everyday life as well, which it absolutely is. Maths is everywhere. Pointing out different shapes and patterns that you can find, whether you're looking at tiles on the floor or windows, the way things are built, all that sort of awareness and pointing it out to your children is going to help them with their understanding of the world and how it's put together, how things are measured, how things are counted, and that numbers don't exist on their own. They're interrelated with each other and interact with each other all the time. The other thing that will really help your child before they start school is play. I'm a big advocate for play. Even once we're in prep, it's one of the greatest ways to settle children in and to find out who they really are, the essence of the child. Play is where children test out different ideas. It's where they become curious about the world and they appreciate the world that they live in as well. Being able to incorporate literacy and numeracy as well as science into children's play is one of the greatest things that you can do for your child before they get to school. It helps build their language, it builds their confidence and self-identity. It's just wonderful. So play, play, play. So once you've decided where your child's going to go to school, it's then time to start sharing. Towards the end of your kindergarten year, your school and your child's teacher will be given a transition statement from your kindergarten teacher. This is a wonderful document for your teachers to read. It helps us to understand who your child is as a learner and as a person. However, as with any formal document, there are little gaps and holes in this transition statement. The more that you can share with your child's teacher, the more likely they are to be able to understand your child better and be able to cater for their needs better. So if your child has ever been to or been recommended to attend speech therapy or occupational therapy, if your child's ever had any trouble socializing or making friends, or if your kindergarten teacher has recommended you go and see a pediatrician for any reason, please pass that on to your school teacher. Don't worry about being labelled. Don't worry about the school making judgments about your child and as you as a parent. There's nothing more frustrating than starting the school year, meeting a child, identifying something about that child, and then observing over a period of time, and then calling a meeting and saying something along the lines of, I think your child needs some form of assessment. And the parents turn around and say, oh yes, our kindergarten recommended that to us 6 months ago. If we know these things earlier, we can get them moving much quicker. And also, if you are attending speech therapy or any outside help, please continue that through the Christmas holidays and into the new school year. School funding is notoriously slow, and while you might be able to get funding in kindergarten, the amount of funding you might be able to receive in a school setting might be less, or harder to access, or none at all. And we know that with early intervention, time is really important. If you do stop over Christmas, expecting to just start up with your funding at the start of school, you'll lose a lot of time and your child might actually go backwards with all their wonderful progress that they've made. So continue that through Christmas holidays and into the school year. And as always, discuss it with your school and your child's teacher. So that's about it for the school readiness session. I hope you've learned a few things. And as always, if you'd like to contact us, please contact the school. And thank you for listening.